China's military is at the same time facing one of its biggest internal crises in years. According to US intelligence, some of China's missile silos were badly built, and in some cases, missiles were reportedly filled with water instead of fuel. And that is reportedly the reason behind the sweeping crackdown within the People's Liberation Army. As President Xi Jinping moves to clean up corruption and tighten control, especially at a time when China seems to be preparing for a war over Taiwan. But what really went wrong within China's armed forces, and what does this mean for China's military ambitions then? Let's just first try to understand this missile scandal. It has to do with China's rocket force. Remember, this is the elite unit of the PLA that's responsible for managing the country's nuclear and long-range missile arsenal. Its job is pretty simple, but also extremely important to make sure China's missiles are ready to launch if needed. But in 2024, US intelligence reported serious problems. Some missile silos in Western China were reportedly built with materials that were too heavy, and in several cases, missiles were allegedly filled with water instead of fuel. Now, if true, that would mean parts of China's nuclear deterrent may not have been operational. Now, for a country that wants to rival the United States militarily, that's a major embarrassment to say the least. And soon after those reports surfaced, President Xi Jinping reportedly jumped into action, and the entire leadership of the rocket force was removed. But the crackdown did not stop there. Over the past few years, Xi Jinping has dismissed hundreds of officers and prosecuted some of the most powerful figures in the military. Last week itself, we told you how even General Zhang Yuxia, one of the highest ranking commanders and a childhood acquaintance of Xi Jinping, was ousted. State media accused him of undermining Xi Jinping's authority. Unofficially, he has also been linked to allegations of leaking sensitive information and resisting Xi Jinping's military plans. And this shows the purges are not just about corruption, they are also about loyalty. And as per analysts, Xi Jinping's campaign has two main goals. First one is to eliminate corruption. For decades, promotions in the Chinese military were often bought and sold, reportedly. Officers ran businesses, they took bribes and even diverted funds that weakened discipline and professionalism in the Chinese military. Now it seems Xi Jinping wants to put a stop to that. Secondly, he wants absolute control under his leadership, and this has been widely reported. Loyalty to the Communist Party and to him personally is non-negotiable. Anyone seen as independent or slow or resistant to the CCP efforts will be removed. And that matters because of Taiwan. Xi Jinping, remember, has made it clear he wants the Chinese military ready to take Taiwan by 2027 if needed. An invasion of Taiwan would be one of the most complex military operations in modern history. It would require perfect coordination between air, naval, cyber and space forces. Corruption and weak leadership could derail that objective. So Xi Jinping is reshaping the army now. But then there's also a risk. By removing so many senior commanders, analysts and observers, reports say that Xi Jinping may also be stripping away experience. And today, China's Central Military Commission, which is the body that runs the armed forces essentially, is dominated by Xi Jinping and anti-corruption officials. Some experts worry this leaves fewer seasoned officers to actually manage real combat. In other words, loyalty may be replacing competence. But others also disagree here. Former CIA analysts reportedly say that Xi Jinping is laser focused on making the military battle ready. And from this view, the purges are painful but also necessary. Now, it's important to point out here that despite these scandals, the Chinese military has grown rapidly under Xi Jinping. The country now has the world's largest navy, the second largest air force, and a fast expanding missile arsenal. Official defense spending standing around $250 billion a year, though real spending is likely higher, those numbers on your screen. This investment has made the PLA a modern high-tech military, of course. There is massive corruption, but analysts also say it has not stopped the military's modernization efforts. So both seem to be happening side by side. But what does all of this really mean? First, it shows that China's military is not as flawless as it sometimes appears. Serious internal issues remain. Second, it also shows Xi Jinping is willing to sacrifice powerful allies in order to maintain control, that no one is untouchable. That's the larger message. Third, it also highlights how seriously Beijing is taking the Taiwan question. Xi Jinping wants options. He may prefer peaceful so-called reunification, but he also wants a military that can act if diplomacy fails, and he is prepared to be ruthless to get there. Becoming the newest battleground in America's immigration fight. As the US authorities ramp up the arrests and the deportations, they're also increasingly turning to high-tech tools to track, monitor, and detain migrants. At the same time, activists, lawyers, and tech developers are racing to build their own digital defenses, hoping to protect the vulnerable communities. Let us tell you more about what's been playing out. On one side, you have federal agencies with million-dollar budgets. On the other hand, migrants and supporters using smartphones, apps, encrypted messaging. One of the fastest growing tools is this app called Turn Signal. It allows users to basically connect instantly with an immigration lawyer if they are stopped by federal agents with just one tap. The app begins recording the encounter and uploads the video to secure cloud storage. And that footage and the legal advice can later be used in court. The app now has nearly 300,000 users reportedly. Its creator, attorney and computer scientist Jazz Hampton says, demand has surged since early 2025, and the app was first designed for drivers worried about police encounters, but it has now been adapted for people facing immigration enforcement. Users pay about $99 a year. Some companies even provide it as an employee benefit, in fact. Hampton says the goal is pretty simple: peace of mind, to help people feel that they are not alone, even in frightening situations. But while protesters turn to these apps, US federal authorities are investing heavily in surveillance as well. Records show Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, has spent millions of dollars on tracking technology. And that includes facial recognition software, tools that can scan photos and videos to identify people in seconds. Agents also use programs that extract data from mobile phones and platforms that analyze location information from millions of devices. One major contract worth about $30 million went to a data company. Its system, known as Immigration OS, is designed to help officials locate undocumented migrants reportedly and monitor deportation cases. In short, enforcement is becoming more automated, more connected, more data-driven. And this growing use of technology has sparked a counter movement. In Minneapolis, which saw the fatal shooting of protesters over the past few weeks, activists have created online databases to track federal vehicles. They share license plate numbers, photos, locations. Encrypted messaging apps like Signal are also being used reportedly to warn communities about raids and to organize protests in real time. Supporters say this helps protect families. But critics say it risks interfering with law enforcement. Meanwhile, the federal government is pushing back. The FBI has warned that tracking officers could put lives at risk. Officials argue that these tools cross legal and ethical lines and could amount to harassment. But activists are saying they are responding to what they see as excessive surveillance and a lack of transparency. And this digital arms race, in a way, is reflective of that turmoil in the United States. Under President Trump's second term, immigration enforcement has intensified. The administration has pledged to deport millions of undocumented migrants. Technology making that goal easier to pursue, it seems. But it also has raised new questions about privacy, about America's civil liberties, and the due process of law. Who controls the data? How long is it stored for? Who gets access? For migrants, these tools can be life-changing, to say the least. A single encounter with ICE can determine whether someone stays in the country or is sent away. Having instant legal support can make a critical difference. Pakistan is on the boil. The country is witnessing one of the deadliest periods of violence. Balochistan province is at the center of a violent crackdown. Over 220 people have died. Pakistani authorities say among them are 145 Balochi militants. And as the country is engulfed in that crisis, a new form of protest has come to the surface. It's the women who for the first time have taken up weapons and are demanding justice. Islamabad has vowed to crush the insurgency with an iron fist. Our next report getting you more.
Balochistan is a war zone. The streets have become battle zones. Armed fighters take on the security forces. Over 200 dead and many injured in 2 days of violence. The Pakistani security forces have launched a crushing crackdown. Around a dozen sites remain sealed off, with troops combing the area a day after PLA personnel stormed banks, jails, police stations and military installations.
No one is safe. Anyone who leaves home has no certainty of returning safe and sound. There is constant fear over whether they will come back unharmed. Business was already slow due to the cold weather, and when such incidents occur, chaos follows, forcing people to shut their shops and return home.
They want us to surrender.
They, militants, want us to surrender. We will not. We are ready to fight this war for 1,000 years. This country is ours. This is our motherland. We will fight for it. We are not prepared to surrender even for a second.
A rebellion once led by men has taken a startling turn. Women have stepped into the front line. Balochistan Liberation Army unveiled Hawa Baloch and Asifa Mengal, Fidain or suicide bombers who led the assaults. Hawa battles on the Gwadar front, clashing near vital CPEC ports. Asifa reportedly stormed the ISI headquarters in Nushki, detonating herself. For years, Baloch women have lived on the margins. Low access to education, limited healthcare, deep-rooted discrimination. As the insurgency intensified, their suffering worsened. Activists and families speak of systemic targeting of Baloch men, enforced disappearances, long detentions, and bodies that never return.
Women were the primary victims because the brothers, fathers, husbands, sons were disappeared. Then their mutilated bodies were thrown on the streets in the barren mountains of Balochistan. So these women immensely suffer this. Therefore, in reaction, you can see this generation of women who saw those sufferings have embarked on the liberation movements.
The emergence of women fighters marks a profound shift. Analysts say it reflects both tactical calculation and emotional rupture. More importantly, they carry a powerful message. This conflict has reached families, not just fighters. Pakistan has been battling a Baloch separatist insurgency for decades, with frequent armed attacks on security forces, foreign nationals and non-locals in the mineral-rich province bordering Afghanistan and Iran. Pakistan's poorest province and the largest by land mass, Balochistan lags behind the rest of the country in almost every index, including education, employment and economic development. Baloch separatists accused Pakistan's government of exploiting the province's natural gas and abundant mineral resources without benefiting the local population. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.